All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and we got to talk about everything that went down today. It's mini camp day 3, the last day of mini camps, the last day of any Washington Commander practices until July 27th. We also have to talk about that and the fact that it will not be in Richmond. They're done going back to Richmond, it looks like. Also, of course, we got to talk about the report that Terry McLaurin's contract talks have intensified. Ron Rivera seems very serious about getting that man done before training camp. Also, got to talk about Benjamin St Juste. He was in a Twitter space basically talking about his concussion injury situation. And we also got to talk about how many coaches have just completely fallen in love with what he's done over the offseason. One of the best players. We're also going to take a look at some of the other young guys who have had great off seasons as well. We're going to take a look at all of the injury updates as far as like Charles Leno, Curtis Samuel, Chase Young, Logan Thomas, Chase Roulier, all of those guys. And then, of course, we got to talk about all of the most notable things that went down in practice today, per usual. And then we also got to talk about Warren Sapp. I mean, it would be nice to have him as a defensive lines coach, but we're going to talk about exactly why he would not become a defensive lines coach for the Washington Commanders. It's such a simple reason, but it still hurts my heart. I would definitely prefer to have him than who we currently have. Like I already said in the previous video, a lot of defensive line players do not like our current defensive lines coach. So Warren Sapp, especially with a lot of the quotes, and I'm gonna show y'all a video of one of the quotes that he provided us today, and just overall his whole mentality. I think Chase Young and those guys would definitely benefit from having him around as much as possible, even if he's not a defensive lines coach. Also, slight update in the Snyder and Goodell situation. We're going to discuss that really quickly, and then we're going to end it off with an update on when training camp starts. Like I already said, July 27th, where it will be, and also some of the storylines that we may want to keep in the back of our minds going into training camp. And before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, I'm gonna update y'all on everything that's going down until we get to training camp. And of course, when we get to training camp, I'm gonna update y'all on all of that type of stuff as well. But until then, it's kind of like a dead period for content. So y'all know that's when I'm gonna get my most creative. I'm gonna come out with constant videos about something I'm working on, why the Washington Commanders should have a top 5 offensive line. I'm probably gonna do a video on why we should finally have the most explosive offense in the NFL. I tried it last year and I brought advanced statistics and tried to prove my case. It didn't work out because Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt in the first quarter, but I think I have a strong case again this season, an even better case than I had last year. Of course, I want to do a why we need to pay Terry McLaurin video, a lot of advanced statistics for that as well, and then also take a look at what his contract may end up looking like compared to other receivers who got paid this offseason. A whole bunch of videos like that. So man, make sure y'all stay tuned. And of course, the film sessions for all of my channel members for our entire draft class and some of the undrafted free agents. So with everything down for the Commanders, that means Rico Street Scores gotta up it with the videos. And without further ado, let's get it. All right, so let's start with the Terry McLaurin situation, because that's probably why most of y'all are here. I mean, I guess I could be the type of guy to put it at the end of the video to make sure y'all watch the entire time, but I'm not going to do y'all like that. I know a lot of people, they're clicking things usually because of Terry McLaurin and any type of update that happens with that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the front just in case. Now, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler is reporting that the Commanders have, quote, intensified their efforts, unquote, to get Terry McLaurin signed to a long-term deal. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported the update on McLaurin, who skipped the team's mandatory minicamp this week, Thursday, on Get Up, saying the Commanders, quote, value this guy in a big way, unquote. He also said, quote, I'm told that Washington has intensified their efforts to try to get a long-term deal done for him. He sat out minicamp. That sort of sparked more talks. They've sort of been upping their proposals. Nothing imminent yet, but this could get done even this week. Definitely before training camp is Washington's plan, unquote. And that's great to hear, man. That's great news for sure, man. I mean, I've already talked about it in several videos, so I'm not going to dive into it again right now. But there are so many reasons as to why we need to get Terry McLaurin signed long term, especially as soon as possible. Again, as a fan, I'm actually pretty optimistic. As an analyst, I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but we'll see. Moving on to Benjamin St Juste. Nigga Javala jumped into Kelvin Harmon's Twitter space that he was hosting. He had Benjamin St Juste in there, and basically Benjamin St Juste in the Twitter space talked about how he never had a concussion before in his life until last year, and then he suffered 2 as a rookie. Now he says he's fully healthy, said he was appreciative of the way Ron Rivera and the Washington staff helped him through. And there's also some speculation that maybe he took a few games off because he was there with the whole Jeremy Reeves situation and stuff like that, so maybe that contributed to it some, but I feel like the concussions had a lot to do with it as well, and the fact that he's fully healthy is great to know. Now granted, he was fully healthy in the offseason last year, and then those concussions started rolling in as we got to the early part of the season, but we'll see, man. He hadn't suffered a concussion, I believe, up to this point last season, so everything was looking so good last year, and then all of that happened. Who knows what will happen this year, but I doubt it will, and I'm very optimistic about him staying healthy, and if he stays healthy, he's going to be one of our best corners. So far this offseason, he's been our best corner, like single-handedly. It's not even a competition. Again, the only one, Jahan Dotson's been burning everybody. Benjamin St Juste is the only one that's giving them problems. When Ron Rivera had a press conference at the end of today, he was asked about which backup defensive back stood out, and then he just had more praise for Benjamin St Juste. I mean, he already had a whole segment about Benjamin St Juste alone, because he was specifically asked about Benjamin St Juste, and then a reporter asked him which of the backup DBs do you like and who stood out and things like that. He had to praise Benjamin St Juste again, and then he started to go to everybody else. He cited that Jeremy Reeves from a mental understanding of the position. He mentioned Christian Holmes's physicality. I've heard good things from him as well, our final pick of the 2022 NFL draft. And then he also mentioned Danny Johnson and Percy Butler as guys that have been playing well fairly recently. Like Percy Butler, this was a good week. He didn't look too good in OTAs, but he's looked good in mandatory minicamps. Can't wait to see what everybody looks like in pads. Ron Rivera also said that he was impressed by the way that Jamin Davis has moved around during OTAs and minicamps. He said, quote, Jamin's had a good spring, unquote. And that's another thing. I mean, he's had a couple of plays, specifically the one yesterday where Taylor Heineke ran around him for a touchdown in 2-minute drills. But other than that, Jamin Davis has been a way better player than he ever was last year. He's more confident. He's working faster. Logan Paulson said on Craig Hoffman's podcast that, I mean, there's even moments where he's very decisive about what he's going to do even pre-snap. And then his body with his athleticism and explosion is able to go and make the play. So a lot of what he was dealing with last year was more mental than physical, even though I prefer him to be more explosive and, lose a little weight from what he had last year, go closer to what he had in college so he can be more explosive, quicker, shiftier, better change of direction and stuff like that. But it was more so mental than anything else. And the fact that he's starting to get the mental part down is a huge help to how good he's going to be on the field. Like Logan Paulson basically pointed out a specific play where last year Jamin Davis wouldn't have made this play, but this year he makes it easily, and basically he saw like a little twitch, like a little step that the running back took right before the snap. He recognized it, and then he, without hesitation, went after it as soon as the ball was snapped, and he was there in coverage, so Carson Wentz couldn't throw the ball where he originally wanted to, and he had to hold the ball because of that. And if Carson Wentz would have decided to throw it, it probably would have been intercepted by Jamin Davis. Again, that's something he didn't have last year. He has it now. That's big. Rivera also appreciates how much the younger guys have embraced the system and their confidence in it. He mentioned Jamin Davis, Derek Forrest, and Benjamin St Juste, amongst others who have had a strong offseason. So I guess you could say defensively, as far as surprises, because I mean, of course, like Jonathan Allen and those guys are going to look really good. But as far as guys that are younger or guys that are surprising, Benjamin St Juste, Jamin Davis, and Derek Forrest are the 3 names to remember leaving the offseason workout so far before we go into training camp. You can argue Benjamin St Juste is an MVP of the offseason so far. You can definitely say Derek Forrest and Jamin Davis are some of the most improved guys, which is great for us because Derek Forrest is definitely competing for that Buffalo nickel role, and Jamin Davis is a first-round pick, 1 year removed. So we definitely need to see a lot from him to make that draft class make sense, even though we got a lot of gems out of that. I mean, Benjamin St Juste, Samuel Cosme alone before we even dive into other guys, including Derek Forrest. Now, injury-wise, of course, we got to talk about Curtis Samuel, but there's other injuries as well. First of all, Charles Leno and Cornelius Lucas missed 2 straight days of minicamp. They were both absent yesterday as well, and they were absent today again. I know Charles Leno has an illness. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Cornelius Lucas. Also, Curtis Samuel was out there, but he was watching the wide receiver drill, so he was more so chilling, and Dax Milne is walking on a boot. Ron Rivera said that he's not concerned about the Charles Leno illness situation. He expects him to definitely be there fully healthy and ready to go when training camp starts July 27th. He said that he doesn't expect Dax Milne to remain in the boot that he has right now for long, so he should be ready for July 27th. And then he said otherwise, I mean, the long-term issues, Chase Young, Chase Roulier, Logan Thomas, would just basically be a wait and see. I definitely don't expect either of them to be fully healthy going into training camp, but maybe at some point in training camp, one or two of those guys can be ready, and hopefully we can get all of them for week 1, but I'm not exactly sure. But I mean, I think the one thing to be optimistic about is that we have no new major injuries. Like right now, the only injuries that we're concerned about really going into training camp, and I'm not even necessarily worried about Curtis Samuel yet, even though they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt, but the way everybody is discussing it and talking about it, it sounds like Curtis Samuel's injury situation isn't that bad. It's not what it was last year, and we're going to talk about that soon. But basically, the only injuries we're worried about going into training camp are the injuries that happened during the regular season last year with Chase Roulier, Chase Young, and Logan Thomas. There are no new major injuries. I mean, if you look around the NFL, a lot of teams have lost major contributors to their offense or defense or whatever during these offseason workouts. We haven't really gained any new serious injuries. Every injury that we're worried about right now are previous ones that happened before this offseason. So that's good to know that it sounds like our new training staff does sound like they're doing a pretty good job. But whatever they're doing, the way they practice, when they practice, all of that type of stuff, the way they're stretching, whenever players get hurt, the way they rehab it, all of that, it sounds like they're doing pretty well. And Ron Rivera expounded upon the Chase Young and Logan Thomas, Chase Roulier situation. He said, quote, "We got to see where they are on the 26th when they report as to when they'll be able to play. So we'll see on the 26th. Again, training camp starts July 27th, but everybody reports the day before, and they'll take a look at them then to see where they're at." And then as far as Curtis Samuel, he was limited this week during mandatory mini camps because Ron Rivera and the training staff felt like he was in a good spot after what he did at OTAs and at Tuesday's mini camp. They didn't want to push him anymore, and when P. Haley asked if the caution was related to Samuel Cosme's groin injury from last year, Rivera said no. So basically they're just playing it slow. Apparently that's what they're reporting. We'll see. He says it's not related to the groin injury, but again, we'll see. They basically are saying they felt like he balled out enough in OTAs and he looked good enough in Tuesday's mini camp to where that they just felt like they could sit him down until training camp and he'll be ready to go. Now let's get to these last day of mini camp notes. First of all, day 3 of minicamp from Ashburn. It's the final session of the off-season program, again, until training camp starts July 27th. They started a little bit later today at 9:15 a.m., and the practice didn't last long. And usually, coaches cancel day 3 of practice altogether, but Ron Rivera did want them to show up, and we're going to talk about exactly why soon. But the NFL tradition is normally to cancel the final day of off-season workouts before training camp, but Rivera instead held a very short practice. And Rivera basically said that today's practice was mostly about the young players and their growth. So they sat a lot of the starters. They let a lot of the younger guys, the backups, go out there and really show what they can do. And even Zach Selby on Twitter said, looks like the backups are getting the bulk of the reps for the final day of minicamp. Sam Howell's first completed pass of the day is to Alex Erickson, who made the grab for a touchdown. That's good to hear for Sam Howell's development. But that's also good for Alex Erickson, because as of right now, I think he's our leading candidate to be our true punt returner, kick returner, and all of that type of stuff. But can he contribute at least a little bit on offense to increase his chances of making the team? You don't want to keep a guy on your roster and he's literally all he's doing is being a punt returner and a kick returner. Now he is pretty explosive and he's basically a DeAndre Carter replacement, but I would hope that he can at least contribute some on offense like DeAndre Carter did as well. And also, man, before we dive into everything, you gotta see that Jahan Dotson catch. I'm gonna throw the clip up right quick. Y'all see, man, this catch, he made it look way too easy. You can throw this pass to me 10 times and I'm just hoping I can catch it like that once. I mean, to catch a pass thrown to you by a quarterback in the NFL, I mean, I would expect to be able to catch most of them out of 10, but the way he caught it, like how he caught it down, you'll see. Here you go, right here. Like, man, look at that catch. Like, he just made that look too easy. Man, I'm really excited about Jahan Dotson. I mean, the route running we already knew, and people were saying coming out of the draft he had the best hands in the draft, but that clip really showed it. I mean, I've seen him contort his body all kinds of ways from clips so far in OTAs and mini camps and things like that. I've seen him make contested catches. I've seen him dive to make catches, but I don't know, it's something about that catching it downward like that, where you have no back support to like stop the ball. I mean, his hands are strong. strong. They're like glue. I don't know, man. That catch was really impressive for me. That's my favorite Jahan Dotson clip so far of the offseason workouts. Moving on, Zach Selby also pointed this out, that he's seen a lot of Randy Jordan running back drills these past few years, and he basically said he feels like Randy Jordan has rarely used the same one twice. They're always very unique, and I like that, especially for running backs, because things are never the same per possession. Every run can be different, so I like the fact that he does that. Of course, Carl Turner was making some amazing catches, showing that catch radius, contorting his body in ways that people as big as him normally can't and shouldn't be able to do. There was a lot of Carson Wentz to tight ends action today, so I feel like that was a point of emphasis. Antonio Gandy Golden still out there making some good catches. Chris Harris had the DBs practicing trying to catch interceptions near the sideline, basically trying to get them to toe tap. And even William Jackson said something. He said, "Can we get an inbounds pass, Colt McCoy?" So I felt like that was a pretty funny jab at Colt McCoy there. But I also most notably like the fact that Chris Harris has them practicing something so specific. I mean, our DBs couldn't catch an interception and save their lives last year outside of, I guess, Bobby McCain and Cameron Curl. Kendall Fuller especially couldn't catch any. William Jackson caught one that went straight to his chest, but like, I just don't expect them to make a diving sideline catch, but that's exactly what Chris Harris has them working on in practice. And again, William Jackson was basically like, man, can we just get something not towards the sideline, something inbound? And then, of course, all of the players, most notably Cameron Curl and Cole Holcomb, had their "we'll see you at training camps" type of videos. Again, it wasn't a very noteworthy practice, but of course, just knowing how Washington Commanders practice goes, you have the big, huge backup quarterback throwing an interception to end the practice, just like Steven Montez used to do. Now you got Cole Kelly, who was intercepted for a pick six to end the practice. I mean, just so typical. Literally what Steven Montez used to do all of the time. That's crazy. I mean, the big fourth string, biggest quarterback we have on roster, one of the biggest human beings we have on roster, throws an interception to end the practice. I mean, it's just clockwork. And then just an update on Warren Sapp. Of course, people asked him if he was okay with coaching the Washington Commanders, like actually taking the job, and he was asked this off camera, and he basically said, nah, he's good. And the reason is because he doesn't want to leave the great state of Florida. He loves being in Florida. So maybe if the Washington Commanders move to Florida, maybe you can have Warren Sapp as a defensive lines coach. But first of all, that's just never going to happen. So it sounds like Warren Sapp will probably never be our defensive lines coach, but I'm really happy to have him for as long as we did, man. I mean, the energy, the quotes, I'm gonna put up a clip soon, but like the things he was saying, I just want Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and all of those guys to really internalize everything he was saying. And he just loves Jonathan Allen. He loves Daron Payne. I mean, he was completely infatuated with our defensive line and all of the potential that they had. And again, just all of the advice that he gave them. I just really want them to like write that down and say it as affirmations every morning before they go to practice. All of the stuff that Warren Sapp, all of the jewels that he gave them. And it's not even just because he's Warren Sapp and how good he was when he played while he was in the NFL, but like the things he was specifically saying about how it doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how much people hype you up, there's always something you can learn. So you need to work on getting better every day. And of course, I'm paraphrasing a lot, but he was basically saying, I don't care how much you were highly touted coming out of college, being the number 2 overall pick, and Montez Sweat was supposed to go top 5, but then he had his heart situation. That's the only reason we were able to even get him where we got him, and all of that type of stuff. We don't care how much people liked y'all and all of the amazing accomplishments that you had in college. Every day in the NFL, even after you become a Pro Bowler, even if you become an All-Pro, even after you win a Super Bowl, there's still stuff you can learn, and you need to work on it every day to become a better player. Again, he will not be a Washington Commanders defensive line coach or assistant or anything. Hopefully they bring him back for training camp. I doubt they will, but I would love it if he could. But again, all of the jewels that he gave him while he was here for the short 3 days that he was here, man, I'm really appreciative, and I definitely hope they internalize it. And then here's the clip that I'm talking about. He loves our defensive line, and man, I mean, just the energy, even in the interview, I wish we could have him here, man. I really do.
Probably. I love him. I love those two dudes. I mean, boy, Jesus, they just thick. That bowling ball of butcher knives. So now I'm just trying to get out of that 2 gap. Let's go forward. Let's build a camp in the backfield, 3 yards deep. Penetration kill all running plays. Penetration disrupt the timing of an offense. And no quarterback wants that kitchen in his living room. No way. I mean, come on, man. Then you got these ends coming off with Chase and Sweat. Fellas, let's set the stage. They'll take him off. I guarantee you. So just work together as a unit. That's all I'm trying to get them to understand. Work together as a unit. Work every day. And what you put in this game, you'll definitely get out.
And now moving on to Snyder and Goodell. Like I updated y'all, of course, I mean, I could have told y'all weeks ago, Dan Snyder was not going to testify in front of Congress. But like I wrote in text, because the news came out after I was already done recording and almost done editing the video, Roger Goodell will testify. And I mean, of course, people are saying that it is Roger Goodell. He's paid by the NFL owner, so he's not going to throw Daniel Snyder under the bus. But I actually think he will, man. I think this is the time to basically be like, well, he's not here, so I'm the only one voicing my opinion. This is going to be a completely one-sided story. This is my time to completely throw him under the bus and get him up out of here and get myself clean of everything. Let me go ahead and make it be known that I had nothing to do with nothing and everything is on Dan Snyder. I think that's the card he's going to pull. Again, Daniel Snyder is technically paid by the NFL owners. He technically works for them, so he technically works for Daniel Snyder, but I think he's going to take this opportunity to separate himself and align himself with the other 31 guys and try to alienate Dan Snyder, but we'll see. And then lastly, just an update, the Commanders will not return to Richmond for training camp. It will be based completely out of Ashburn. Again, training camp starts July 27th. The players show up, I believe, July 26th. Some of them may get there sooner, but they're required to report the day before. So we'll see all of the updates and injuries and stuff like that. But again, just wanted to let y'all know it will not be in Richmond. And Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney even had a comment on it. He said, quote, "We respect the team's decision to stay home. We hope the Commanders will continue to seek ways to positively impact the community and reward the loyal fan base here in Richmond," unquote. So that's a good way to basically say goodbye. Who knows if they'll ever go back to Richmond. Remember, Ron Rivera, even though they were doing all of their practices in Ashburn, they went to Richmond for a week just to show love and be like, man, we're here for the fans. We know we have a lot of fans in Richmond. Y'all are used to it being here, so we're gonna at least do this one more season. They went out there for a week instead of having the entire training camp. And it sounds like, just because I remember Ron Rivera saying, like, shortly after the time they went to Richmond, basically like they won't be back next year, which is now this year. He said this a year ago. He basically said like it just wasn't cost efficient. It just wasn't very feasible. It didn't make a lot of sense outside of the fact of showing loves to the fans. Now, I don't know how much it costs. I don't know how much it really negatively affects the team and guys having to travel and stuff like that. I really don't know, especially me. You know, I'm not from Virginia, so I don't even exactly know how far Richmond is from Ashburn, but I guess it's far enough for them to feel like it's not worth going down there. But hopefully they end up going back to Richmond maybe next year, maybe the year after that, because there apparently is a really strong fan base out there. And then before we go, Grant Paulson tweeted out his top 5 Commander storylines right now heading into training camp. Number 1, McClory's negotiation. Hopefully before we get to training camp, that is settled. Number 2, Carson Wentz's comfort with the offense. So far, it sounds like they're way ahead of schedule. Logan Paulson brought up a good point that basically when you start doing 2-minute drill things in OTAs, you don't start moving into situational football until the quarterback has the offense completely down pat. He has it memorized. He's comfortable with all of the calls and stuff like that. You don't start doing 2-minute drill and situational football stuff until the quarterback is good with the playbook. So it sounds like he's definitely comfortable. I mean, granted, he hasn't had his number 1 target, Terry McLaurin, yet, but Jahan Dotson has stepped up in a big way to take that over. But yeah, man, I mean, it sounds like he's comfortable because they were doing that stuff in OTAs, and Logan Paulson basically said usually a quarterback that's new to a team, they're not doing stuff like that as soon as OTAs. They usually start doing stuff like that in training camp in July. So sounds like we could be optimistic about that part, but of course he's not 100% comfortable yet. Also, number 3, the rehabs of Chase Young and Logan Thomas. I would add Chase Roulier there as well. Of course, Curtis Samuel, but apparently that's not a thing, so we'll see. Number 4, the lack of depth on defense. That is interesting. We got to see who's going to be stepping up. Like I already talked about in the previous video with JP Finlay brought up, who's cornerback number 4 and who's linebacker number 3. And then number 5, the development of Dotson and other rookies, and I think that's an obvious one right there. So I'm excited to see what those rookies look like in training camp when we put on the pads, man. I'm excited. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like if you liked it, if you learned anything. Again, like I said in the intro, stay tuned. Just because the Washington Commanders are going in a long break, an over a month break, does not mean Rico or Street Scores is. We're going to punch out more content, a lot of creative videos and film sessions for my channel members. Speaking of my channel members, shouts out to all of them, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. And I really appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. I'm out.